Getting into the world of comic books can be extremely daunting. There's so many terms you could get confused on and lost in. But if you're looking to get into this awesome world without getting overwhelmed, well, you came to the right place. Because I'm here to say, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we talk all things video games and comic books. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode like this. Also, a quick shout out to our Patreon, link will be down below. As somebody that recently came into the world of comics in the last few years, I can tell you that without having a background of comics, I felt very lost walking into the comic book shop and really felt overwhelmed seeing all the different single issues on the walls, seeing all the different back issues, and trying to figure out which stories are actually worth my time and why waste my time getting these single issue books instead of getting these larger collected edition books. And honestly, I just wish that I had a video like this just to tell me the difference between all these different terms and how I could get interested into these comic books and getting into the stories of all these different characters, because as somebody that's a big fan of the MCU and the DCU, I wanted to get to understand these heroes and villains on a much deeper level and really understand the source material of what these movies are pulling from. And so when it comes to the books themselves, there are different terms that you're going to want to get yourself familiar with. The most common kind of comic book itself would be a single issue. Essentially what these are the way to get the newest and most current story of any hero that you're going to want to read in either Marvel or DC. This is kind of like the newest chapter in the novel of their story, and typically these come out every month. In some cases, they can come out every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, but for the most part, it's usually every month. These are around 20 to 30 pages, and it is the quickest way to jump into whatever is the current thing that this particular character is dealing with. These next couple terms are collected editions, and essentially what these are just different methods of collecting all of the single issues that you just went into the comic book store and picked up for yourself. So essentially there are many different collected editions, but the only two that we're going to focus on today are trade paperbacks and the omnibus. A trade paperback is basically a collection of multiple single issues that tell the same consistent story all in one place. So with any particular hero, there is essentially an arc of whatever kind of story that they are currently dealing with. Whether that's a specific villain that they're dealing with, or maybe there is a new status quo change that's going on in the world that they are in. And basically what the trade paperback is doing is taking a collection of these various single issues that are all related to this particular story or theme that is going on with this particular character. In some cases, the trade paperbacks can be as small as a collection of 6 issues. These are usually going to be anywhere between $10 to $20 or so. And in some cases, these can range all the way up to 18 to 24 issues, and in some cases can be even more as well. And the big thing with these is that they are trade paperbacks. So they are a paperback format. You're not going to see an actual hardcover of these trade paperbacks because they're, well, paperbacks. And so essentially this is a relatively budget and affordable way to jump into a particular story that you want to learn about, and in many cases is far cheaper than collecting all of the single issues of those particular comic books. It is far easier to read about this one story by just picking up this one trade paperback rather than hunting down all of the individual single issues, because if it's an older story, like the original 1984 Secret Wars, for example, well, you're going to not only be spending a lot of time tracking down the individual issues, but in some cases, those individual issues can be very expensive. And so the next kind of collected edition, which is personally my favorite type of collected edition, but can be very expensive up front, would be the omnibus. The omnibus is a much larger collection of all of these different single issues and all these different stories, all into one large hardcover book. From a value and budget standpoint, this is usually a much cheaper way, and really the cheapest way, to get into any particular story or get a large collection of all of the different stories and issues of a particular character. But like I said, this does feature the largest, most upfront cost because this is a sort of premium way of collecting all of these different things, because traditionally what's going to happen is you're going to get a nice hardcover. It's going to be very large, lots of paper. A lot of times the colors, if it's an older set of issues, an older story, the colors and the inking is going to be upgraded so that it's a little bit more of a higher definition rather than the original format that they came in. The paper is traditionally a little bit better quality paper than the individual issues themselves. and is far more durable and able to withstand the test of time rather than the individual issues, which usually if you want to protect them, you have to go the whole board and bag route, which is a whole other thing itself. A lot of times what's common with the omnibus is that it's a large collection of a very large story, like Jason Aaron's Thor run with the War of the Realms. Well, this was an entire omnibus that had everything to do with War of the Realms. Now, War of the Realms could easily be picked up for the core story itself in a trade paperback, but keep in mind that during this War of the Realms event, there are all of these other characters in the entire Marvel Universe that are all reacting to this event and how this event is affecting them. And so essentially what this War of the Realms omnibus is doing is collecting every single War of the Realms related content all into one book. Another thing that's common is with omnibuses, there can be a collection of everything that this particular writer has done with this series, and so you can see multiple volumes of omnibuses that are collected because maybe this writer has been on the title for a very long time. Take Chris Claremont's X-Men run, when he's been on that for years and decades, and so there are multiple volumes of Chris Claremont X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, that went on for 4 or 5 volumes, I think. And so before I get into the easiest and best ways to get into comic books in today's age, I do want to remind you to hit that like and subscribe button. That is the biggest way you can help support this channel. We are on the fast track to 1,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if I can hit that really soon. Now, honestly, in my opinion, the best way to get into comic books in today's age is just to walk into a comic book shop and just absorb yourself with the surroundings of what you're seeing. There are obviously going to be tons of single issues on the wall. Usually these are reserved for whatever is the newest issue that came out in this week or in this month. And my suggestion is to just pick a character that maybe is your favorite character in Marvel or DC, or maybe you're wanting to go the independent route with Image, and just pick a character that you have an affinity to and pick up their latest and current story. Now, you might jump into the middle of a big event with this character, but for the most part, if you have some kind of background with this character, you can usually fill in the blanks. And so, of course, if you're jumping into like part 4 of 10 of this whole big event, you can always do some research to find out what is the name of this event, when did this event start, in what issue, and you can always go back into what they call the back issues and pick up the older issues of that particular event, so that way you can kind of get the whole big picture. You can also just ask the person that is there at the comic book shop. Their job is to help you find a story that you are interested in, and they can help to let you know if this particular character or this particular issue that you're holding in your hands is in the middle of a big event, or if it's just a start of an event, or if it's the start of a new arc, a new story, anything that is going on, and it can kind of help to give you a little bit of a background of if this is a good time to jump into this character, or maybe there's another character you want to get into. And that kind of gets into my next thing, which is be okay with not finishing a series or continually picking up every single new issue of a particular character. And what I mean by that is I'll use a perfect example for myself. I am a huge Nightwing fan. He is my favorite character in all of DC. And to date, I probably have not an insane Nightwing collection, but I've probably got about 20 to maybe 25 issues of individual Nightwing stories. However, in the recent Dawn of DC, they started this storyline with Nightwing essentially becoming a pirate, and honestly, that's not really something that I'm personally interested in, so I actually stopped purchasing the newest issues of Nightwing during that pirate run. And so while I stopped picking those up, that's when I started to pick up the Uncanny Spider-Man, which featured Nightcrawler becoming another Spider-Man. And so that was a great time for me to jump into this other new title that was going on and experience this whole other story that I found really interesting and I had a blast with. Another example is my wife is a big fan of Scarlet Witch, and so when we walked into the comic book shop, we saw that there were some Scarlet Witch issues of the most recent Scarlet Witch run. And so basically every time that we walk in, my wife goes through and picks up any missing issue that she's needing for this particular Scarlet Witch run. She started at a random number, I think it was like 6 of 10. And so every time we go in, she picks up another issue to eventually fill out that 10-issue run. And so for her, that's honestly helped her to kind of know that she's getting a full, complete story by picking up the 10 issues in this run, and now she's good to go. And because she has an affinity with Scarlet Witch, then she's definitely going to be picking up the newest issues of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch that'll be coming out pretty early this year. And so all that to say, my best advice is to just walk into your comic book shop, find an issue on a character that you're interested in, and try them out. I think it's great to try the single issue route to kind of just spend $4 or $5 here and there and see if this is a character that you want to continue reading about, and that way you're getting the newest and latest story. Or if it's a character that you know you're going to love, like in my case, I knew I was going to love Moon Knight, and so before I picked up any individual issues of Moon Knight, I full-sended it and got the entire Moon Knight Omnibus, which was a great read. It was over 1,000 pages, and I read it cover to cover. It was great. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that comic books are fun, and they are there to bring you into the world of whatever character you're interested in. And so if you keep that in mind, you'll have a blast getting into comic books. And on this channel, we love talking about comic books and the entire comic book culture. And so definitely reach out if you want to have a conversation about any character that you might enjoy. I would love to have that conversation with you. If you stuck around for this long, make sure to like this video and make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss another episode. And if you enjoyed this video, you are definitely going to enjoy this video right here. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.